Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Kerbal Space Program. So here we are, still in orbit around the planet on the space station. Sort of on the dark side at the moment, but there's a nice view of whatever galactic formation this is out there. So, what to do next? Well, how exactly can we best make use of a space station? My first thought was like, okay, yes, it's good for fueling, but also we put this science lab in orbit, and it would be great to make use of it for more than just like stuff from Kerbal orbit. So what about if we sent a lander to a moon, whether the moon or Minmus, and then on the way back, rendezvous with the space station to drop off all the science instead of taking it into Kerbal. So that seems like a good plan, and we could do that right now. But first, I thought, let's bring these guys home, because I've got all my good scientists up in the space station. And we don't want to visit the space station on the way to the moon. Like, it wouldn't be that bad, but it would just be easier to have, like, one scientist take off from Kerbal. So I think that we will bring somebody home first. And so we decided it is a good idea to have at least 2 people in the space station at any given time. So we'll just fly one scientist home. Let's say Bob. Where in the world is Bob at the moment? How do I, like, look at where my crew is? I mean, I can go here and look and see, okay, well, I guess he's in the science lab. That makes sense. But how could I have... If I didn't know what the inside of the science lab looked like, how would I have found him here? I don't know. Anyway, speaking of, how is our science lab progressing? It has built us 0.074 science. Fantastic. A great investment. Alright, so let's transfer crew. There it is. Bob into... I can't see it because this thing's in the way. Into here. He's in this command pod. Good. And the other 2, one is here and one is here, I assume? Yes. So we've got a pilot in this pod and a scientist in here, so that's all very lovely. And why is my electric charge at like 0? I guess it's because we are on the dark side at the moment and we're doing a bunch of science in the science bay. Interesting. Let's warp to the bright side so we can start picking up some science. Some electricity, I should say, before we try to take off and go home. Because right now, all the batteries on both ships are pretty much empty. And being over here ought to help with that, right? Interesting. So the science lab, actually, I think... So if I say stop research... Yeah, we immediately start getting science back. So... Wait, where are the solar panels on the space station? Navball, please. All right. Are there not solar panels here? Oh, maybe I retracted them to let the other ship dock more easily? Surely I put solar panels on this. I'm pretty sure I put some gigantic solar panels on this thing. Oh, there they are. Did that extend both of them? No, just this one. Okay. So, yeah, extend though. All right, that should make a big difference. Yeah, we're actually netting positive. Oh, what if I say start research? Our science is, yes, still going up. Okay, so those gigantic solar panels are enough to power the ship. And what happens if I press 1? Is it going to retract all the solar panels? These and these. Yes, okay. So, no, I changed my mind. Please put them back. 1. I press 1. Okay, there we go. But these aren't coming out. Are they? Yeah, there they are. Okay. So one reason I realized that, like, on occasion I've had a craft where I thought the solar panels were out and it turned out they weren't, is the hotkey that I use to start and stop recording. It involves, like, I hit Control 1, which has never been a problem in, like, any other program, but in Kerbal Space Program, Control can be meaningful and 1 can be meaningful, so I may need to, like, pick a new one. But okay, we're full up on electric charge now. So what I would like to do is, we have some fuel in this thing, and I don't think that just our RCS is going to be enough to deorbit. Maybe it would, but that seems a little optimistic, doesn't it? So what I will do... Here, is there anything to be gotten from this materials bay? No, we're just in space near Kerbin. Okay. Any, like, new EVA reports or something? Nah. Okay. Oh, the other thing is, I looked at, but forgot to show you guys, the surface scanning module. So it tells you, like, what biome you're over. We're over grasslands right now. And, like, latitude and longitude. And I guess if you run... This is supposed to be done... If you run an experiment while you're on the ground in a biome, then it'll tell you more stuff when you're in space over that biome, I think. I don't know. That's something like that is the idea. Anyway, so... But we have a bunch of fuel, and I don't think our RCS is enough to get us home. Although, who knows? Maybe it is if we separate out these two giant stages. But what we wanted to do is use very little of our fuel to get back. And I had to look up, like, how do you transfer fuel? And it turns out you right-click on one thing, and then you alt-right-click on where you want it to go. Come down here. So this one, let's see, do we want the craft to be top heavy or bottom heavy? We would prefer bottom heavy. So we want this to be the destination where stuff is going. So in. Okay. So that has emptied this tank and put it all in this tank and made it clear that we have about a third of a single tank. But that's not actually what we wanted. I just wanted to empty this one so that things would be simpler. What I now want to do is transfer most of it into here. And just leave us just enough to deorbit, which should be hardly any at all. So if I say out, a stop button appears. Okay, so I'm going to, like, let it get down to here. That should be plenty. And likewise on this side, let it get down to about a similar amount. And now look, we have almost half a tank in our upper thing. And I'm sure this is more than enough to deorbit. I could transfer some more, but I'd like to be a little bit cautious and not leave Bob trapped in space forever. So incidentally, I guess here's a reason it might be nice to have a decoupler between these two stages, is I could transfer all the fuel into this stage and decouple this stage, and then, like, it would be cheaper to re-enter, but in exchange, we'd be paying to bring a decoupler all the way up into orbit. And I'm not sure that that's really that important. So, yeah, let's go ahead and undock. Why won't you do that? Okay, there we go. Undock. Okay, it has us controlling the space station, but that's not actually what we want at the moment. So let's switch to this. Open up the nav ball, turn on RCS, and just thrust backwards a bit. Get us away from the position where we're going to run into those solar panels, those expensive solar panels. Cool, undocking nice and gently. So, once we've gotten a bit of distance, I will point us retrograde. Actually, you know what I could do? Just turn off RCS, Point retrograde now with respect to, yes, our orbit. Wow, look at that. Hardly any fuel. I guess it looks a lot smaller because it's measuring with respect to 2 tanks, but still. Should be fine. And I'm interested to see how much our RCS would do here. So what I'm going to do is turn on RCS, turn off SAS, and just thrust forward and see what's happening to our apoapsis and periapsis. Actually, yes, we're in a very round orbit, so we're roughly at periapsis / apoapsis right now. There's no need to wait. So I'm just holding down the RCS backwards button, RCS retrograde, I should say, and our periapsis is coming down. Let me make sure we're not about to smash into the other ship or anything. No, okay. And, of course, we don't need to do this, but I wanted to see... Actually, all of our RCS fuel is in this module, so it would be 1,000,000 times more effective if we decoupled first. And that would really be what I wanted to measure, huh? So let's just throttle up, get rid of all of our fuel. Why not? Turn off RCS, turn on SAS, point, retrograde, observe the periapsis, and burn. What's going on? This engine is not on at the moment, I guess? Let's quick save, make sure I understand what's going to happen, and then press space. Nothing is happening. Press space again. Alright, well. Goodbye. So this is one flaw in the plan, is that no, our RCS is not on this, it's on the module just below it. So we don't actually want to do that. Oh! The engine isn't firing not because it never staged, but because I turned it off while we were docked with the space station. Okay, that all makes perfect sense now. So let's try that one more time. And just throttle up here. Oh yeah, that brought us in like instantly. We still have like all of the fuel we brought with us. We needed maybe 1/8 of a second of thrust to get back into the atmosphere. So that's that points out a flaw in this design, is that where did I put the RCS? There is some on this stage, isn't there? Yeah, here it is. It would have been better to put it up here, so that, or else to put the decoupler below the crew cabin. I put the decoupler here, thinking I don't need to bring back the crew cabin or the science, which is true. But I put all the RCS stuff on the crew cabin, so it would be kind of nice to be able to bring that home, you know? All right, well. So let's just warp to around here. Getting ready to re-enter. And I will just point retrograde and try to use up our RCS on something productive. It's not a huge deal, but it would be nice to get some use out of it. So just burn forward, which is retrograde. And look at the minuscule effect this is having on our orbit, huh? But, you know, it's not nothing. Well, turn on SAS too. Just whatever. Never mind. Don't bother. Yeah, we're going through all of our monopropellant, and we're about to get back into the atmosphere, though, and I would like to get rid of this stage. So if I haven't used up all the monopropellant by the time we're at, like, 68 kilometers, I'll ditch it anyway. Look at that. We've dropped our apoapsis by a whole 6 kilometers with all this RCS fuel. So, not very efficient RCS on this gigantic ship. But that's fine. We didn't actually need it. We're just sort of using it for funsies. All right, let's forget all that. Throttle up. Oh yeah, way more fuel than we needed. And And jettison. And point retrograde. And bring us home, please. Bob. Did I bother with a heat shield on this one? I didn't. Okay. I'll turn off time warp as we're coming into the atmosphere where that matters the most. That is you want to be... This ship is capable of re-entering as long as we keep it pointed properly and no weird approximations happen. This is the most sensitive point in the orbit, or in the maneuver, and therefore it's important not to... When you do a physics warp, you accept some sort of inaccuracies in the approximation of how it makes time go faster. And right now it's sort of important to be accurate, so no warping through this part. Oh good, there is a parachute. I had this brief moment of panic, like, did I not put a parachute on this thing? But yeah, this should be perfectly simple. I don't know, maybe some of the science stuff will probably blow up, but maybe not, who knows. I could have actually, it occurs to me, like chosen a landing point since we had all the time in the world, but it doesn't really matter. And of course, plenty of electric charge on the way back. And we're already through the worst of it, so let's time warp the heck out of things. Mark the parachute as please deploy. And just sort of enjoy this gentle landing. I don't know, observe some mystery goo? Sure. We already know all this stuff, I assume. Oh, we didn't know that. Flying over grasslands? Sure, why not? Now we're 1 kilometer up. So the parachute has deployed. I forgot the parachute is on the side this time. Crew report? We've never done a crew report from over the grasslands. I usually do them when I land. First of all, you can turn off the SAS. It should be safe to hop out here, right? We're going very slowly. I just want to get an EVA report. This is a most precarious situation. I agree. You should get back in now. Alright, let's finish up that time warp. Get back to the ground. Great. Recover the vessel. And of course we got very little science. We had already deposited most of it in the space station, but we described a bit on the way back. So that was a flight, but not a very interesting one. And I prepared ahead of time and built the next ship we are going to fly. Where is it? The Articulated Moonlander. Articulated is actually the wrong word, but I just thought it sounded pretty cool. So 2 things to note. One, I finally figured out how to... No, not that. How to save a copy-pastable portion of a ship and put it into another one. So I've sort of taken this as our sort of like enough thrust to get into Kerbal orbit with a moderate-sized payload as something I can just copy-paste into any ship. And I included that here. I thought I had moved the solar panels up, though. They should really be here. Because... So, okay, what's the deal with this ship? Why did I move the solar panels? What's going on? Why is it upside down? So I decided that it would be fun to build a... Now that we're proficient with rendezvous and docking, it would be fun to build a an orbiter stage and a 2-part landing mission, right? Where instead of flying a ship to min-miss orbit or moon orbit and then landing it and then flying it back, we'll fly a ship into orbit, separate the lander portion, which will be much lighter because it doesn't have to carry all the fuel for getting back home to Kerbal. Land that, fly back up, dock with the orbital stage, and then fly the whole thing back home. So the idea is, I've got a docking port here. Above that is our lander stage. So just a lander can and a bunch of science instruments. I think it's a Terrier engine. Yeah. And like 4 of these 200s. I think this is heavier than it has to be. We could probably, especially if we're just landing on Minmus, we could probably take these 4 fuel tanks and replace them with just 1 in like a straight up and down thing. But even though it's a lander, I thought it would be nice to pack a little bit of extra fuel. So this is sort of a self-sufficient lander, but it doesn't have enough oomph to get into orbit anywhere. So we dock it with this upper stage, which consists of a Poodle engine here. So this is sort of like the Rockomax version of a Terrier. It's efficient but not very powerful. A reaction wheel here to help steer. A Rockomax medium-sized fuel tank. It's basically half of one of these orange ones. And that's our upper stage. Our orbital / upper stage. And we mount all that on top of the booster stage that we've had before for getting into like Kerbin orbit, basically. We'll get into Kerbin orbit with most of the fuel in this upper stage. I think not all of it. I did like a test flight and ended up using a big chunk of the fuel here to get into orbit, which I think is about right. Just like when we flew up with 2 of these orange tanks, we had used up most of the fuel in both of them getting into orbit. Here, this upper stage is not as heavy as that, but it is close, so we should expect to use up more than this much fuel to get into orbit. But we'll still have a bunch left over in this stage for getting to a moon of our choice. And then we'll deorbit the lander stage, do some science, reorbit, dock with the orbital stage, fly back home, dock with the space station, and then come all the way back home. So all of this reminds me of an interesting fact. There is no parachute on this lander can, and I'm not sure whether that's a good idea. I think a lander can is not really suited to re-entry anyway. We should sort of just regard this as disposable. And what might even be particularly cool is to just leave this lander in Minmus orbit. Right? We come back up, we dock with the return vessel, and then we leave the lander there, undock with it, and fly just this part back to orbit. And then we get into the space station and wait for the next bus back to Kerbin, basically, right? This vessel won't have to bring a parachute because it'll never come back into Kerbin atmosphere, is my hope, my plan. If it doesn't work out, well, our crew is going to die. So what are the challenges of this mission? I think that the main one is we have been doing pretty steep re-entries. We've been using up extra fuel to make them shallow, but it's been just sort of like extra fuel that we didn't really, sure, let's just spend some extra fuel on that, right? But if we're going to dock with the space station, we're going to have to get our orbit under control without use of the atmosphere. So if we have a lot of spare fuel, then that's fine. If we don't, we'll have to do some aero braking, maybe? Ooh, makes me nervous. I'm not sure how that's going to go. But I think it ought to be possible if we're willing to be a bit patient. So let's double check the actions here. 1 is, yeah, all the solar panels. 2 is the antenna. Fine. Crew. I want to send Bob. He's good at science. And you'll notice, by the way, this time I did not encase it in a fairing. That's so we can do some science at the launch pad before we take off. Bring that up to the space station as well on the way back from probably Minmus, I'm thinking. Anyway, let's. We're not going to be able to finish this whole mission this episode, but we can at least get it started. So first of all, notice the nav ball is orange, or I guess this is brown instead of blue. This is because this crew cabin is the lander can here is the only control area in the ship, and it's pointing down. So, well, we're looking down right now. But what we can do is say, please can imagine that this docking port is the top of the ship. And then suddenly SAS is like, oh, you're pointed up. So that's good. So anyway, let's do a little bit of science before we go. Yeah, EVA report. Sure. Surface sample. I don't know how you can reach the surface from there, but I'm happy with that. Get a crew report. Yep. And it's hard to see the science. I can move them out. I can use like pan to like, I don't know. I can. There's some stuff I can do to make the mouse move in ways other than just rotate and zoom, but it gets real weird. And so I've done that, and now I'm looking at what I wanted to, but I'm going to have trouble understanding what is going on with the mouse later on. So let's do this surface scanning module here. And it says our biome is shores, and it tells us how much ore there is, I guess. So you could like mine fuel from that or something. Let's observe this mystery goo. Sure. And we brought along a barometer and a thermometer, you know, the whole complement of scientific instruments here, as well as a Science Junior on our sort of lander chassis here. So let's grab all that. Sure. Close the doors. And I guess we should go on EVA again. I can't even see him. What the... This is because of how I zoomed the mouse around, I guess? Oh my gosh. Before we take off, I'm going to have to, like, exit this view. Yeah, collect this data. Restore the materials bay. Collect this data. Yeah, restore it. Take the data from these guys. Okay, now we're ready to take off. Now that we've done all this nonsense once, we can put fairings over our... Did that fix the... Yeah. Just going back to map view and back, set the camera back to being reasonable. Okay, so anyway, now in our future missions we can include fairings because we don't have to do this stupid launchpad science. And so I'm still not sure quite how much throttle to give the mainsail engine on the way up. I think that almost like, I don't know, maybe a third, and just not try to turn at all. I think that should be okay. We'll find out in 3, 2, 1, lift off. No, not lifting off. Why? I didn't hit spacebar. I hit Z. That's why. Okay. 3, 2, 1, lift off. There's our apoapsis. I'm not even going to look at the ship until I have to. The nav ball tells me everything I need to know. And apoapsis is here. I guess I could make apoapsis be here after... No, you can't look at that while you're in that view. Alright, well, whatever. What I want is the fuel, though. And I'm just not going to try to do a gravity turn. We're probably pretty top heavy by this point with a big chunk of our solid fuel gone. And so anything I do is going to tip the ship right over. And once we're in orbit, I'll figure out whether we have fuel to go to the moon or Minmus or what. Probably Minmus. And our apoapsis is... stage, please. Is that 57 or something? All right. Well, let's tip over, like all the way, and throttle up. So we're widening, but also raising just a little bit our periapsis to get it into the 70s. And now that it is in the 70s, we'll finish tipping over. Try to stay on the 90 if we can. There we go. We'll have to adjust orbit inclination to to get to Minmus anyway, but might as well. I don't remember if it's high or low that we need to be to get to Minmus, so I'll just stay at 90 for now. All right, how are we doing? Let's throttle up a little bit just so the maneuver nodes know how hard our ship can push. Great. And add a maneuver node here to get us into a circular orbit, like that. And it is a 1 minute 37 second burn. Let's well, never mind, let's focus on the ship, I guess. Let's try to get it as close to periapsis as I can. What is happening? It was like dragging in some ridiculous direction. I want you there. Okay. Cool. And so we'll burn at 1 minute 40 is 100 seconds, so we'll burn at 50 seconds, right? Oh, that's coming up real soon. Speak of the devil. And as you can see, we still have a ton of fuel in our upper stage, in our, I guess, an orbiter stage, although we're not really in orbit yet, so it's having to do some more work. I wonder if it would be appropriate to put more solid rocket boosters on. For lifting us. It doesn't feel like this payload is that heavy, but I guess one of those, the fuel tank we're using weighs quite a bit, so we just have to put a lot of oomph to get it into orbit. And I guess it would be nice to just have more power. Maybe I should be thrusting more with the mainsail on the way up. I don't know. Maybe we spent longer than we should have in Kerbin's sort of ultra-low gravity well. Getting out of it faster would have been more efficient. I'm not sure. That would, of course, cost us more atmospheric drag. I don't really know how to weigh that decision. This is obviously going to get us into orbit, no problem. And then is when it gets a little more exciting. Stop. So, we've got about, what, 2/3 of a tank left? So, roughly speaking, it should cost about as much, I think, about as much fuel to get to Minmus as it should to get back, if we're not willing to use the atmosphere to slow us down. I think. Maybe it'll cost a bit less if we choose not to bring the lander stage back. I don't know. Also, this fuel tank includes these guys, doesn't it? Yeah, they've been paying into the engine as well, weirdly enough. So what if I told all of these to transfer to here? Is that crazy? Well, it would lower our center of mass, but right now our center of mass seems fine, I guess? I don't know. So where are we gonna go? I think Minmus is easier to land on, much easier, and it costs more fuel to get there, and you get more science there. So there's sort of some competing concerns. I think the moon might actually be a less ambitious place to go, because... Oh, let's deploy the solar panels now before I forget. There they go. And the antenna, sure. Where is the antenna? Did I not include one? I guess that's fine. No, it's on this lower stage somewhere, right? There it is. It's so cute. Look, I have antennas on, or solar panels on both of these stages, because we might fly either one without the other. I think there should be enough fuel in the lander stage to handle the moon. But on the other hand, we'll spend a lot more of it. Like, if we're going to abandon any... It'll cost us more fuel in the lower stage to get to Minmus, and more fuel in the lander stage to land on the moon. I don't really have a good way to judge which of those is going to be more efficient overall, and actually, Minmus might be tougher because it's so inclined. We would have to do an inclination burn as well, right? Let's see how that would look. Set Minmus as our target, and we're coming up on the descending node here, so I could burn normal. Yeah, but like more. These maneuver nodes, man. Just delete that. Try again. Right here, add a maneuver wherein burning normal. More. 0.2 degrees should be fine, I guess. This is a pretty short burn, but it's not nothing. 232 meters per second. And it costs, like, as I recall, about 800 meters per second to get to the moon. So when you add in what it'll cost to... This is not so expensive, but on the way back from Minmus, we'll also have to do an inclination adjustment to rendezvous with the space station. I think I'll aim for the moon this time. Maybe it's the wrong decision, but it seems easy enough. And our nodes... Actually, we're off by like a whole degree. But I think that should be fine. Our orbit around the moon doesn't matter that much. So let's just add a node around here. Probably it should be a bit further to the earlier than this. Yeah, so, and if I now take... it's so hard to, like, get out of here, Navball. Focus on Kerbin. Grab this. Don't pull the radial node. Pull the whole maneuver node. Ah, there we go. What was our moon periapsis? 534. Pull it like this until it gets quite low. And then when we get there... Ooh, that's a collision course. We don't want that. That's very low. I don't want to be that low. Let's do like that. 100 kilometers. Okay. Warp to next maneuver. There's us and there's the space station. How exciting. Oh, and I need the nav ball back. Point to the maneuver node. There's a 1 minute and 9 second burn. That's 70 seconds, so we'll burn at 35. Looks like about now. And I think that once we are on a trajectory towards Minmus, that'll be a good time to end the episode. Next episode, we'll have the landing and so on. Maybe the return, maybe that'll be a third episode. I'm not sure how long this is all going to take. It's the first time doing this orbital... So we're going to have to do 2 rendezvous on this mission, right? 2! The lander's going to have to rendezvous with the orbital stage. And then on the way back, we're going to have to rendezvous with the space station. It's all very exciting. And I'm becoming a little bit doubtful that we actually have enough fuel to do all this. But I guess it doesn't take a lot to get a return trajectory from the moon, does it? I'm not sure. We'll see. Okay, get rid of this and just point prograde. And I want to see what our periapsis is so I can fine-tune it. Yeah, coming down. Good. Oh, it's doing funny things because we're, like, briefly getting moon encounters or something, I guess? Okay, there's the 100 kilometers we wanted. And then we'll spend, I don't know, a little tiny bit of fuel regularizing. Dump the rest into the lander stage to land. And then once we've landed, we'll sort of assess how realistic it is to follow with the rendezvous to return. But that'll be in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.